straight, close your eyes, take the deep inhalation and slowly exhale. One more deep inhalation and exhale. Listen to the birds. Listen to the birds around. Slowly exhale, fill yourself with all the positivity. Deep inhalation and slow exhalation. Continue. Every time when you exhale, let go of all the negativity, all the negative energy, all the pain, discomfort, all the fear, unpleasant emotions. Just let it go. Every time when you inhale, fill yourself with all the abundance of love, patience, health, well-being. Just fill yourself with the positivity. Come to Namaskara Mudra. Join your palm in front of the chest. Eyes closed. Chant along with me. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Rub your palm, generate the heat, gently place it on your eyes, then open your eyes with a beautiful smile. Once again, a very good evening. Very good evening. Yes. ನೀವೆಂತ ನನಗೆ ನೆಕ್ ಎಕ್ಸಸೈಸ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಹೇಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತಿದ್ದ. Good, good. Nodi. This is the level of commitment and the dedication towards the treatment. She is in the treatment of Snehapana where she is not supposed to get exposed to the wind. And look at her dedication that she straight away went and sat in a place where she cannot get the wind from this. I really appreciate and thank you, because for a doctor to be successful, it is not just the skill of the doctor or knowledge what we have in our head. It also depends on the people who are ready to follow the instruction, the people who are ready to accept our energies. Then only we can become a successful doctor. Without that, we are nothing. Without your dedication and your patience and your acceptance, we are nothing. We can never become a successful doctors. So thank you, all of you, you are all my favorites, and thank you. Yes. So the question for today is like, what is the best time to practice the yoga? Do we have to practice the yoga only in the empty stomach or not? Okay. Before that, we have to ask the counter question that what is yoga?
Meditation.
Yoga means meditation, exercise. Then what else? Anybody has anything else to add? What is yoga? It's a philosophy. Okay. Spiritual aspect. What is yoga? What is yoga?
Way of life.
Yeah, way of life. See, wonderful answer. Yes. Yoga means the way of life. Yoga, specifically, I understand that your question was basically for the asana practice. Yeah, your question was. Okay. See, yoga doesn't have any time restriction. It is like, okay, every day I do 1 hour yoga. That is not possible. It is like you live with the yoga philosophy. You live with the principles taught in the science of yoga. So that is like 24/7. Once you become a yogi, it is not like I'm a part-time yogi. There is nothing called like the part-time practice of the yoga. Once you are into the field of the yoga, that means you are living, you are talking, you are eating, you are sitting, you are sleeping. Everything is a yoga. because yoga means the way of life. Yoga means the philosophy what we have to adopt in our life, and yogic lifestyle is like a full-time service.
Shavasana is also yoga.
That's what everything is yoga. Everything, the way you talk, the way you sleep, the way you eat, everything is included in the science of yoga. That's why if you ask me like what is the best time to practice yoga, it's like every single minute is the best time to practice yoga. Yoga has all these aspects. If you see the Ashtanga yoga, do you know the 8 limbs of the yoga? What are the 8 limbs? Like just like the way we have hands, legs, head and all, yoga also has the limbs. Anybody has any idea? You should not tell. I know you attended my last class. Please don't tell. Okay. What are the limbs for the yoga?
There is the asanas,
Yes. Pranayama, yes. 2 limbs, the asana and pranayama. Yes, very good. What next? How many limbs are there for the yoga? Huh? Yes, very good. Ashtanga yoga. There are 8 limbs for the yoga. And what are these 8 limbs? 2 are, yes, one is asana and the pranayama. What else? Mudra is included in yoga, but it is not the main limb.
Meditation.
Dhyana. Yes, dhyana is 1 limb. Then asana, pranayama, dhyana. What else? 5 more to go. So the limbs of yoga are 8. The yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana and samadhi. These are the 8 limbs. Let me tell you one after another what exactly they mean. The first step is called as yama. Yama means the certain things which has to be practiced from the person who want to be a yogi. If you want to become a yogi or if you want to get into the practice of yoga, then this is the must to do thing. That is yama. Yama has Yama word meaning is not that Yama Dharmaraya. In Indian mythology, we have the story for the Yama is the name of the person who is the god of death. Okay, but here Yama doesn't mean his name. Here Yama means the principles, the basic principles for the practice of the yoga. If you want to become a yogi or if you want to start the practice of yoga, then these 5 principles has to be followed from each one of you. What are they? Any idea? Now you can say. What are they? What are these 5 rules which are included? What do you think that is the basic principle of yoga? Get up early. Okay. Okay, you tell me, then I will tell the actual answer. Okay. Breathing, concentration. Okay. Then
not to be kill any creature, or
not to be?
not to kill any creature.
Not to kill, ahimsa. Yes. Okay. Good. Then
Honestly,
ha.
shouldn't say any.
Okay. Then so the 5 basic principles, the Yama principles are ahimsa, satyam, asteyam, brahmacharya, aparigraha. Ahimsa is non-violence. Okay. Again, the question comes. See, yoga is a wonderful topic where we can have like 7 day seminar. But let me try to brief it. The non-violence again has the 3 aspects: the kaya, vacha, and manasa. Like physically, you should not hurt anyone or you should not fight with anyone, one thing. And vachika, that is verbal violence. You should not verbally hurt anyone else, that is vachika. And manasika, that is even in your thoughts, you should not think something hurtful to others. That's what is called as the negative energy, When someone sits next to you, see, most of the time when you're traveling or when you're meeting new people, there will be certain people with whom you want to spend more and more time. Or at the very first meet itself, you feel very good about those people. And there are certain people with whom you feel like you don't even know whether that person is good, bad, nothing. You don't know anything about that person, but still you want to keep some distance. You want to feel like, no, 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 I should go away, or I should, keep this person away. That is because of the energies what they are radiating from their body. So this manasika violence, that is the violence which is done through your mind. If you just sit next to me and always telling that something bad should happen to her, actually that energy will be absorbed. The same way when you sit next to me and you keep blessing the abundance, that energy is also be felt. That's why you feel that strange feelings even with the strangers. Whether you don't even know that person may be good, may not be, but still you sense something, that is energy. So non-violence, the practice of ahimsa, means that you should not hurt anyone physically, verbally, or even in your thoughts. Okay, again another aspect comes. This is not the end for the non-violence. That is, we say that okay, we should not hurt others. What and all is included in the others? It's like you and the other people, but also your body and your mind. Yes, because that is not you. When I say you, it's not your mind or not your body. We recognize you through the body. But what are you? You are something different. You are something different than this body and the mind. Right? So, non-violence practice is easier for the others. Like when I say, okay, I will not hurt you, I will not fight with you, I will not, send any negative energy to you, that is easy. But without hurting your body, physically, verbally, and mentally, without hurting your mind, because most of the time, the biggest criticism which is done to you from your mind only. You are the one who is always blaming, the self-blame, self-doubt. All these things are the biggest enemies. So the practice of ahimsa is not limited to just avoid fighting. No, not that. If you are self-doubting, that is himsa, that is violence. If you have lack of confidence, that is also himsa. Because if you do not love your body, if you do not love the way you look, if you feel that you are very thin or you are very fat, all these things comes under the practice of himsa. If you are not loving your body, if you are not respecting your body, if you are not loving the thoughts which is generated from your body, that's also himsa. So the practice of yoga starts from here. First, start respecting your body, your mind. Stop all sorts of the violence, what you are doing for your sake. Stop it first. That is the first step. Then, Satya, be truthful, not just to the people, not just to your profession. For yourself also, you need to be truthful. Satya. Asteya is not longing for something just because someone else has it. For example, if I love this sari, I say that, okay, I want to buy this, then that's okay. You work for it, you earn it, and you buy it. But let's say she has a beautiful sari and how can she, I scored more marks than her and I am better than her. I am good in all the aspects compared to her, but still she has a sari. Then even I must have the same sari from the same brand. That is asteya practice, like where you stop all this kind of the longings or the desire. Having desire is not bad. You must have the desires. But longing for something just because that someone else has it, that is wrong. That is asteya practice, to avoid that. Okay? Ahimsa, satyam, asteyam. Then brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is either staying away from the sexual activities or being loyal to your own partner. Both types of the brahmacharyas are there. It is not like, okay, whoever is practicing brahmacharya, they should stay away from the sexual life. Nothing like that. You should be loyal to any one partner in your lifetime. That is also the practice of brahmacharya. Okay. So ahimsa, satyam, asteyam. brahmacharya, then aparigraha. Aparigraha is not receiving anything for free. Whatever it is given to you, you must give something in return. That is aparigraha. Even if I give it to you, you must say that no, I just want to give this back. It is very broadly practiced in India, where even they will not return you the empty what is called basket. I don't know in the other country, maybe I'm sure it's practiced everywhere. So if I give you some sweets in one sweet box, you will not return me the same box empty. You will put something and then give it to me back. That is the practice in India. And also, even when you are invited for any naming ceremony, marriage, or any other functions, you will never go in empty hand. Even if it is like a just 1 rupee also, you will put it in the envelope and you give it to them. Or even at least you will take some fruits or something, because that is the practice of aparigraha. When you are going to a marriage, you are eating something there and you don't want to eat something without paying anything. That's why you are gifting something to the couple and having the food and coming back. That is the practice of aparigraha. So these are the 5 basic principles for those who want to be in the life of yoga. And then this is, see, 8 limbs, and in that 8 limbs, the first limb is yama, and that first limb has another 5 subdivisions. It comes under that. So if you are successful in practice of all these 5 things, then you are done with 1 limb. Then comes the second limb, that is niyama. Niyama means rules and the regulations, which has to be followed by the practitioner of the yoga. So the rules and regulations are Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaha, Swa Adhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. Again 5 subdivisions over there. Shaucha. Shaucha means cleanliness. Yeah. You should be clean physically, emotionally, mentally, and even verbally. Yes. So in all these 3 aspects, you should be clean. That is the regulation. That is the rule for a yogi, that you should be clean. Physically, you should take bath once or twice a day, and the emotional energy is cleansed with the practices like the bhajan, prayers, and these different things. That is for cleansing. It is not for pleasing the God. God is always happy. It is not like, oh, only with your bhajans he will be smiling. No, God is called Satchidananda. Like he is always happy, or Sadhananda. Always he is happy. The God is always in the ecstasy state. So we are not doing this prayer, or we are not doing this bhajan and kirtan, all these things for the sake of the God. We are doing this for the sake of our cleansing. It's a part of our cleansing where we want to cleanse our energies. That's why these practices are done. And the verbal cleansing, that every day you should be very much careful that what you are talking, how you are talking, and what is generating through your mouth. That is shaucha. Second is santosha. Santosha is being happy. Santosha word meaning is happiness. Okay. So here happiness means like whatever happens in your life, you should not lose this happiness. Because there are so many beautiful stories. I would love to tell some of the stories in coming days. I don't know when I get time. I will tell you some beautiful stories of the saints or the beautiful persons in the history of India, where they have lost everything, but still they were happy. Now, even if you lose 20 rupees from your pocket, you will be crying, you will be angry, or I don't know what, and all the emotions are coming out of your body. Right? Even if someone tells something unpleasant to you, even though whether it is truth or not, if it is unpleasant, then you will not sleep for weeks together because you lose your happiness. But in the practice of the yoga, you should learn to be happy in all the states of your life. In all the states, whatever it is, just smile. Okay. It is painful. Yes, it is painful. But still you should not lose your happiness. See, pain and happiness are not opposite words. Namaste. Pain and happiness are not opposite to each other. It is not like, oh, I am in pain, how can I be happy? Why you cannot? Because they are not opposite to each other. They are two different feelings. That's it. You can still you can still be happy even in the state of pain as well. I think you all have experienced it, one or other situations where you say that, oh, it is the happy tear, that and all. What it is? It is the condition where you are having extreme pain, at the same time you are happy. That is the example that pain and happiness can stay together. But it is in our mindset that, okay, if I am painful, then I should not be happy. If it is painful, then I will not be happy. That's the thing, right? So, pain or gain or whatever the thing is happening in your life, you should learn to protect that happiness. That's the practice which is called santosha. Shaucha, santosha. Then comes tapa. Tapa means basic, that word meaning of tapa is burning. That is burning yourself like uh, the candle. Just like a way it continuously gives you the light, in the same way you should be dedicated in at least any one thing, whatever it could be. It could be your profession, it could be your duty in the as a like homemaker, or as a mother, as a brother, as a wife, whatever it is. At least there should be any one thing in this lifetime for which you are totally and completely dedicated. That is tapa. Tapassu andaga we hear the story of Ravana. He did tapas for years together, and then the Lord Shiva gave him this Atmalinga and all the stories you listen, right? But this story are telling you that he was constantly putting all his energy and effort to ask for something. That is tapa. Same way, if you really want to get back to the health, then there should be tapa. If you want to become a yogi, then day and night your mind and energy should be included in these principles, the rules and the philosophy which is taught in yogic science. That is tapa. So Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaha. Swa Adhyaya is the fourth point. Swa Adhyaya means self-study. Like rather than we are so busy in talking about all these gossips, we are so busy talking about the world, we are so busy talking about the environment, so many things are there to chit chat, but we fail to read this. Read yourself. What are you? Why are you here on this planet? What is your role in the ecosystem of this planet? Or what are you in reality? All these things are called as self-study, where it is just like, okay, my life, my job, my profession, my family, everything is not the actual reality. Actual reality is something different that can be understood only when you do the journey inward. So to do the journey inward, the first step is to study yourself first. It is just like the way when we buy something new, thinking we will try to explore the things. We'll try, okay, what and all the buttons are there, what works it does. In the same way, first try to study yourself. The Swa Adhyaya, studying yourself. That is the fourth step. Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaha, Swa Adhyaya. Then Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana means the surrenderance to the whole universe. Or if you believe in the God, you can just surrender to your God. If you believe in the energy of the universe, just surrender to that highest source of the energy. That is called as Ishvara Pranidhana. In the Hindu tradition, what the practice what we have, that Ishvara Pranidhana, that is nothing but the theory of universe. Nowadays it is getting popular, the theory of universe. Universe has everything, it gives you back everything, right? The same thing is explained in the Ishvara Pranidhana, where you are completely surrendering to the process which is happening in this universe, and you accept each and everything as a blessing given by this universe. That is Ishvara Pranidhana. So if you follow these 10 things, then you are ready to go to the next step. The 2 limbs are completed. So to practice this 2 limbs only, it will take like 5 years, 10 years, I don't know how many years. For few people, lifetime. The whole lifetime will be taken for this. right? The yama and the niyama. So see, to practice these things, there is nothing called as the time limit. I cannot say that okay, I will be on the mat for 1 hour every day and I follow all these things for 1 hour. Okay, then what about other 23 hours? Right? No, there is nothing like the time limit. It's like once it is on, it's on for lifetime. I don't know how many lifetimes. It is just on. Right? The same way yoga or the yogic lifestyle doesn't have any restriction of the time, or it doesn't have any connection to like okay, in the morning, in the night, before food, after food, nothing like that. Yes, certain steps, certain practices which comes in the advanced stage has the relation with the time, like for example with the asana, for example with certain practices of the pranayama, with certain sorts of the dhyana practice. There are limitations for this, but for the yoga in as a whole, if you ask, there is no time restriction. It is only the once you start with yoga, then it is just that you are on always you are doing yoga. In one or other term, you are doing yoga. That's what the actual essence of the yoga. So yama niyama, then comes the asana. Then you should start with the practice of the asana, where you will learn or you will celebrate the possibility of your body. Asana is also, it is not like okay, you should be able to do 108 surya namaskaras or you should be able to do shirshasana. That is not the actual asana siddhi. The asana siddhi is called when you are able to sit any one posture without moving any part of your body. That is completely sthiram sukham asanam. You should be stable and you should be comfortable. Let's try it out for a second. Okay, sit in any asana. It's not like okay, should I sit in padmasana, sukhasana, or it's not even mandatory that you should sit on the ground. If you're not comfortable sitting on the ground, then please sit on the table, no problem. But you should be stable and comfortable. Let's try it out. How many seconds or how many minutes you can sit without moving a single part in your body. You should not move anything, right? Anything means anything. So for example, if you sit like this, make sure even your eyes, eyelid, nothing should be moving. Okay, let's give a try and I'll check in the stop clock. Let's try. Okay, comfortable? Everybody is comfortable? Okay. Yeah, you can have some space, yes. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, start. You're not going to move anything. I'm observing all of you. Complete nishchalata. Completely you should be stable. At the same time, comfortable. Completely still like a rock. Continue, continue. Very good. 30 seconds done. Continue. If possible, try to be stable with your eye movement as well. Do not move your eyelid. Either close it or keep it open. Do not move anything. Wonderful. 1 minute done. 60 seconds done. Wonderful. 1.5 minutes done. Well tried. Well tried. Those who feel difficulty, they can, the moment you start to feel the discomfort, you can relax. It's not a forceful action. It's just that you should be stable and comfortable, both the things together. Good, good. Some are still going. Yes, 3 minutes. Wonderful. Now you can relax. See, this is the practice of asana. In any one posture, if you learn not to move any part of your limb for at least 48 minutes, that is one muhurta kala. You should be stable without moving anything in your body. You should be able to stay for 48 minutes. Now you have tried it for 3 minutes. Some people successfully completed 3 minutes. Some were okay, successful for 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes and all. Still okay, good. So try to do this. That is also the actual way you practice the asana. Huh? Anything, however it is possible. See, then it is up to your possibilities. That's why I always call this as the celebration of your possibilities is called as asana. If you are able to sit in one leg, let's say in the Vrakshasana, that is good, go ahead. If you are able to stand in Shirshasana for 48 minutes, go ahead. That is up to you, that which is the portion where you are comfortable. But there should be at least one posture where you are comfortable to sit for 48 minutes. Because this asana is very much required for the practice of pranayama. Without the proper practice of pranayama, you can never enter into the state of, without the proper practice of asana, you can never enter into the complete state of pranayama. That's why it is told before pranayama. Because when you are doing the breathing exercise, we don't want your focus to get diverted on your body. You should be totally focusing on your breathing only. That is possible only when your body is comfortable and stable. Let's say that we are doing some pranayama, your neck is hurting, your shoulders are hurting, you have some back pain, you cannot do pranayama. To do the pranayama successfully, it is very much essential to practice the asana first. Make sure, just learn any one particular asana where you can sit comfortably for the breathing technique, and then you can do the pranayama. That's how the yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. These are the 4 things which are for the this physical practices. Okay, these initial 4 things are the physical. They are still superficial limbs. Then comes the pratyahara. Pratyahara is the limb which is like the bridge which connects the physical limbs to the internal limbs. Okay, little deeper limbs. The next limbs are called as the little bit deeper limbs. Okay, so once you are completing this yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, then you will take the support of the practice of pratyahara, where you will try to enter into the deeper limbs like the dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So dhyana, nowadays, whoever you meet, they say, oh, I practice meditation. Yeah, I know there are few people who are really into the practice of the meditation, but most of the people who are in the meditation, they are just they are sitting like this for 1 minute, they say, I do meditation every day. Nothing wrong in that. They are at least attempting to do something. I respect that. But that is not the state of dhyana. Most of the time, including me, what and all we are doing, that is not dhyana, that is mauna. That is silence. The practice of silence we are doing. That comes in the pratyahara still. We are still in the state of the pratyahara, where we are trying to detach ourselves from this physical body and trying to enter inside. That comes under the pratyahara. That is not the actual state of dhyana. Actual state of the meditation or the dhyana is something much deeper than this. Dharana, dhyana and samadhi. So dhyana, the word dhyana which is coming under this 8 limbs of yoga, that is the state just before the state of samadhi. Samadhi is, we can say that it is the It is the step which is just before the enlightenment. See, we are far, far away. We are far, far away from that actual dhyana. But we should be happy that we at least we are in the process. We are at least trying to reach there. That's also a great thing. Got it? So the question of what is the best time to do yoga is every single second is the best time to do the yoga. Yeah.
The exercise too.
Yeah, for the asana practice and the exercise, it's always better, at least if you keep the gap of 4 hours, at least 4 hours. Always best to do in the empty stomach, if not at least 4 hours after the food intake. Not soon after the food intake, yes. Yeah. Because basically, it is not that problem for the yoga, it's problem for your digestion, that's why. Because body has to invest its energy into digestion. If you are using all the other limbs, then body has to invest some energy for that as well. That's why if you see the most of the practitioners like the gymnastics or the people who are using their limbs a lot are having the problems with their colon. That's also one reason, because they are constantly using all their energy into their limbs. Then what happens? The digestion, the colon health goes deteriorating slowly. I see most of the people coming to me like, I don't eat any drugs, I don't eat any junk, I'm not into any bad habits, but still have this colon cancer or colon something or liver problem and all these things. Because these things are mainly depending on how much energy you are spending in which particular thing. That's why Ayurveda always says that ati sarvatra varjayet, that is the excess is not good in any terms, either good or bad. Anything should not be in excess. Moderation is the key. So that's why it is difficult to reach the state of enlightenment, because sometimes we end up doing something good excessively and that turns into a poison, and that's why we are stuck into this life. You should practice everything in moderate so that you are not hurting this physical body and going step by step ahead in the journey of this enlightenment. Okay, I don't know whether the topic went to this thing out of the syllabus or. Huh?
Useful information.
Thank you. Okay, so thanks to your question. It was nice question, I must say. Okay, let's pray for the well-being of the whole universe. Join your palm in front of your chest. Close your eyes. Sit straight. Have a gentle smile on your face. लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु, लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु, लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Rub your palm, generate the heat. Place it on your eyes. Gently open your eyes with a beautiful smile, seeking the blessings of Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and the lady who gave birth to you. Let's complete this session. Thank you. Thank you so much for attending. Have a wonderful evening. Shubha Sanjay.